sort of disadvantage which could be overcome by using this particular nanoparticles. Okay. So coming to the introduction, you all know, as I said, in the recent years, there are a lot of evidence that development of new drug alone is not sufficient in order to ensure, I'm sorry, yeah, in order to ensure to progress in drug therapy. That's what, so many people, excuse me, Dr. Shobha, can you change the, because I have to admit many people, it seems, people are joining now and then. You can change the host. Okay, so that's what. So a lot of evidence says that development of new drug alone is not sufficient to say that it is progressed in drug therapy. That's what I told. Developing the new drug with in silico tool and other, because exciting experimental results obtained by the in vitro level or in silico level are very often followed by disappointing results in vivo. That's what I said. Even because of the pharmacokinetic variability in animals and human beings. So the main reasons for those therapy failure are: one is insufficient drug concentration. The concentration will not reach to the site of action with a sufficient amount or sufficient concentration. Second one is drug distribution to other tissues. So here we have to play with drug targeting, because for example, if you want to treat cancer in conventional therapy, we have to take the drug in the form of tablet, will not go to only the cancer cells. It also reaches to the normal cells and kills the normal cells. So the distribution to other tissues will lead to some sort of adverse effect, toxic effect, and that in another way, the concentration to the particular tissue is insufficient. Then the third very important reason for therapy failure is poor drug solubility. You are all know about BCS, biopharmaceutical classification system. So in that system is based on the solubility and permeability of the drug. So especially class 2 drug, you all know it's very poorly soluble and highly permeable, and class 4 drugs that is poorly soluble as well as poorly permeable. Those drugs are very challenging drugs for therapy failure. Why? The sense is because of the poor solubility, it will end up with poor dissolution and poor absorption. The next important reason is high fluctuations in plasma levels. For example, quick onset of action, quick elimination. Okay, these are all due to the nature, physicochemical nature of the drug, or physicochemical nature of the dosage form, as well as the pharmacokinetic variability in each and every individual. Fluctuation is possible in the plasma level, which also end up with therapy failure, because sometimes some of the drugs will be absorbed quickly, so and immediately it will get eliminated. So there won't be any therapeutic benefit or therapeutic efficacy. So a number of new molecule entities selected for full-scale development based on their safety and pharmacological data. So generally, people will take the new molecule entity into clinical trial after completing the preclinical. So in the preclinical, it might be showing a very good safety as well as pharmacological therapeutic efficacy. But again, it is suffer from undesirable physicochemical and biopharmaceutical properties, which in turn poor pharmacokinetics and distribution. That's what. So those molecules which are taken up based on the safety and pharmacological data in the preclinical will suffer in vivo, in human being. Why? Because of the poor pharmacokinetics and poor distribution due to the undesirable physicochemical and biopharmaceutical properties. So in this context, there is a need of drug delivery system, where the drug delivery system plays potentially in order to modify the such poor physicochemical and biopharmaceutical properties to improve their bioavailability and to reduce the toxicity. So one of such drug delivery system is called nano drug delivery system. So nano drug delivery system is so one of such drug delivery system is nano drug delivery system. You all know nano drug delivery system is a promising approach to obtain desirable like drug-like properties. Yeah, desirable drug-like properties by altering the physicochemical and biopharmaceuticals properties of the molecule. So by converting the drug into nano particles, its physicochemical as well as biopharmaceutical properties also altered. Thereby, we can get maximum benefit like drug. Thus, it alleviates the unwanted toxicity due to non-specific distribution. If at all, if it is targeted in the form of nanoparticles, we can avoid non-specific distribution, and thereby we can improve the patient compliance, and which may end up with favorable clinical outcomes. Since the last decade, nano drug delivery system has taken a new dimension.
Sir, are you there, sir? Jawahar, sir?
Lipophilic drugs. Yeah, BCS class 2 drug is it or nanoparticles, polymeric nanoparticles, then lipid nanoparticles, which comprising of SLN and NLC, and the another one is nano suspension and nano emulsions. So these three are topmost nano drug delivery system, which has been going to give a brief as well as yeah. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yes, yes.
So both are made up of biocompatible and biodegradable lipid matrix. Especially SLN will solid at body temperature, and the size ranges between 10 to liter, and it consists of spherical nanoparticles. So both of them are spherical nanoparticles in nanometer in range, generally which may be dispersed water or any other aqueous surfactant solution. So how the NLC is differ from SLN means you can see here itself. So NLC generally made up of imperfect spatial arrangement. You can able to see the picture, whereas SLN is composed of regular spatial arrangement. I mean uniform spatial arrangement, because SLN made up of a single liquid, single lipid, whereas NLC is made up of combination of both liquid lipid and solid lipid. That's the reason why the structural behavior of internal structural behavior, I mean the matrix structural behavior of
your screen is not visible to say.
Visible, not visible.
Again, you share the screen, sir.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. So now it's fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. So what I discussed is the difference between SLN and NLC. So structure wise, I mean, the matrix structure wise both are differ. So here you can able to see the differences between SLN and so SLN is made up of spatially arranged structure, that whereas NLC is what is called composed of mixture of spatially different lipid molecules. Okay, so it contains both liquid lipid as well as solid lipid, whereas SLN contains only single lipid. That's the reason for the matrix structure difference between SLN and NLC. So which means NLC has more imperfect structure than the SLN. But that imperfect structure is an advantage over SLN that we will discuss now. So NLC matrix is composed of mixture of spatially different lipid molecules. Normally, it contains a mixture of both solid as well as liquid lipid, which makes more imperfection in the matrix. That's what. So the matrix structure will be more imperfect. That what advantage I told you, know, the advantage is to accommodate more amount of the drug molecules. That means the drug entrapment is more in SLN, sorry, NLC, when compared to SLN. Why? Because this the reason is the imperfect matrix structure. It is expected that the drug loading capacity will be enhanced. Yeah, that we can load more amount of the drug, as well as the drug expulsion during storage will be minimized. Usually during the long-term storage, the drug will leaching out from SLN, but that is not possible in NLC due to the same imperfect crystal lattice. And the release profile also can be easily modulated by varying the lipid matrix composition. So if you want a sustained release or controlled release, or if you want the immediate release, anything, we can play with the release rate with the combination of both liquid lipid and solid lipid ratio. Okay, by changing that, we can do the release modification of the NLC. But whereas SLN, it is not possible, because SLN, we are using only single lipid. So according to the matrix formed with that particular lipid, the release will be uniform. Okay, we cannot do any manipulation, or I mean, we cannot tailor any needed drug release pattern. So coming to the advantages of SLN and NLC, it's the ability, it has the ability to entrap both lipophilic as well as hydrophilic drug. And the very important is no biotoxicity. Then protection of liable compound against chemical degradation, not only chemical degradation, even sometimes enzymatic degradation also, because, you know, the matrix will cover the drug and it protects from gastrointestinal pH, or sometimes, you know, generally some sort of enzymes will degrade the drug. So that and all can be protected. Then we can administer through different routes of administration, like oral, ocular, then parenteral, whatnot, so many. Then sterilization is possible because, you know, because of the size, we can go with cold. Since it's a nano size, it is easily possible through the membrane, I mean, filters and all. So it can be easily sterilizable. Then drug targeting is possible by doing some surface modification to the nanoparticles. Then ease of commercialization, scale up and large scale production also very much possible. Regulatory acceptance of excipients. So whatever the excipients, what you are using in the formulation of SLN or NLC is very much accepted by the regulatory body, because those excipients and all comes under the category of, you know, GRAS, generally regarded as safe, or generally, I mean, considered as a safe category. And the next one is lymphatic transport. That's the another advantage of both SLN and NLC. This particular route, you know, this will bypass the first pass metabolism. So thereby, you know, the drug is available to the blood directly, which in turn more bioavailability is possible, especially in case of class 2 and class 4 drugs. And these are some of the comparison of SLN and NLC with other colloidal carrier, other nano drug delivery system. So here I can compare it with liposomes, nano suspensions, polymeric nanoparticles, and emulsion, macro emulsion. So parenteral delivery is possible. Oral delivery, it's possible. It has the ability to deliver both hydrophilic and lipophilic drugs are possible. Physical stability is very good. Biological stability is good. Biocompatibility is good. Ease of sterilization is good. Drug targeting is good. Drug loading, we can have the option to low to moderate. Okay. In some other delivery system, only moderate or only high. Okay. And ease of commercialization is possible. Ability to deliver biotechnological therapeutics like vaccines, DNA, kind of things. Then regulatory acceptance of excipients. So you can see the comparison list. So everything is positive with this SLN and NLC, whereas other collateral drug delivery system also has the advantage, but those delivery system has one or more lacuna when compared to SLN and NLC. Now I'm just giving some sort of examples of the lipids used for SLN and NLC. The major lipids are triglycerides, example like tricaprin, trimyristin, tripalmitin. Then liquid lipid, especially useful for formulating the NLC, like soybean oil, oleic acid, etc., isopropyl myristate, etc. Then even sometimes waxes are also used in lipid-based drug development, like cetyl palmitate, then partial glycerides like glyceryl monostearate and glyceryl behanate, then fatty acids like stearic acid, palmitic acid. So all these are the major lipids used in SLN and NLC. Then emulsifier or co-emulsifier also used for the preparation of SLN and NLC. These emulsifier or co-emulsifier plays a roles in making the stability of the carrier. I mean, increasing the stability of the carrier. Example like soybean lecithin, egg lecithin, phosphoryl. Then these categories are very popular, like polaxomas, like fluoronic F68, F127, polaxamine. Then polysorbates, okay, that is, twins, twin 80, 60, 20 and all. Then butanol, then tarocolic acid, sodium salt. So these are all some of the co-emulsifier which are mainly used to enhances the stability of the nanoparticles during the preparation and upon storage or long time. Then coming to the different methods of preparation of SLN and NLC. There are various methods are used, just I'm describing. One is high pressure homogenization. There are two types. One is hot homogenization and cold homogenization. But this is a technique which requires high pressure homogenizer. Then solvent evaporation. This is a very simple technique. I will discuss in detail. Then the very beautiful technique among all other techniques is micro emulsion method. This is a very simple and very safe method for preparing SLN and NLC. This also I will explain. And other methods are solvent diffusion method, spray drying, supercritical fluid. So these are all require some sophisticated instruments. So that's why I'm just discussing only with some different techniques, which may not require any sophisticated instrument. You can also try with your lab for any of your new compound. Since you people are, most of the people are from chemistry background, you after developing some new compound which is showing lipophilic in nature, you can just do it, or what is called formulate is as a SLN or NLC by this method. This is a very simple method. Just you take one lipid, any of the lipid of your choice or available lipid in your lab, and take one lipophilic surfactant. That is also upon feasibility of your feasibility and availability of your lab. Then that's supposed to be heated at 70 degrees Celsius, and same temperature we have to heat the water which contains some surfactants, what we discussed, co-emulsifier. some organic F60 or something, then we have to slowly add the first phase into the second phase with the continuous stirring, which in turn it produce warm oil in water type of microemulsion. To that microemulsion, if you added some ice cold water, the globules of that microemulsion will precipitate as a nanoparticles. Then that will be centrifuged, then it will be freeze dried in order to get a free flowing nanoparticles, right? So the advantage of this particular method is here we are not using any organic solvent. So generally, toxicity is the issue with respect to when we are going for regulatory approval. Okay, so the regulatory body will see the traces of any organic residues or something which may end up with disapproval of your application. So this particular method, we are not using any organic solvent. We are using only lipid and water, right? And some surfactant, that's all. The second technique is easy, that is solvent evaporation method, but here the disadvantage is we are using organic solvent. So the method is almost similar. So lipid and lipophilic surfactant will be melted, and it will be added into a here what we are using is we are using water along with some organic solvent, like some immiscible, water immiscible organic solvent like acetone or cyclohexane. Okay, so we are adding the lipid and lipophilic surfactant in first organic solvent in which it will get dissolved. Then those portion will be added to the aqueous phase with stirring. Then it what is called it will again we are stirring to evaporate the solvent, organic solvent from the mixture. But here we cannot assume or ensure that every organic solvent might be evaporated. So there is a possibility of residues also there or something. Then rest of the procedures are same. That will leads to nanoparticle dispersion, which then afterwards you can go for centrifugation and freeze drying in order to get free flowing powder. Then coming to the characterization of SLN and NLC. So after formulation, we have to go some of the characterization or evaluation. That's very important because, by seeing the characters only, we can apply or we can use the nanoparticles for the right application based on the characters. So the first and foremost important character is particle size and zeta potential, because size is very important, especially in terms of in case of targeting, and zeta potential also very important in case of two things. One is its stability, because zeta potential is nothing but its surface charge. It should always fall between minus 30 to plus 30 millivolt. If it is go beyond, means the stability is a doubtful or questionable one. So those two parameters will be measured by photon correlation spectroscopy or laser diffraction and atomic force spectroscopy. Then measurement of crystallinity, that is very important because most of the time the drug is crystal in nature, but when we converted into lipid-based nanoparticles, and the crystal nature will converted into amorphous or polymorphic form. Why? Because the drug is lipid in nature, and when we are melting into the lipid, the lipophilic drug may dissolve into the lipid. So thereby its structure is converted from crystalline to amorphous or polymorphic. So that is one way of confirmation of the formation of nanoparticles, as well as the another way we can justify that the drug is solubilized in the lipid, and so that the nature, the shape, crystalline shape is converted into amorphous. So when the shape is converted from crystalline to amorphous, may increases the solubility. Generally, crystalline nature will have less solubility than amorphous. So that way we can justify with this characterization. Then lipid modification, the same thing only, but in advanced way we can do it with X-ray scattering and IR spectroscopy. Then viscoelastic property, like how the viscosity that we can do with some rheometry. Then surface morphology. This is another important characters. Generally the nano drug, particles supposed to be spherical in nature. When it is spherical, its surface area will be more. So that is the advantage for increased dissolution and improved bioavailability. So that will be observed by two instruments called scanning electron microscope and transmission electron microscope. The first one is very cheap compared to the second one. But based on our research, which one we need, we can prefer. Then the next characterization for nanoparticles are the regular one. It is entrapment efficiency, which confirms how much amount of the drug which taken by the carrier. And even we can do some assays also. Then in vitro release studies through dialysis back technique, and in vivo studies of your choice. Whatever the drug you incorporated, what kind of screening you want to do, you can do with your in vivo studies. So these are some of the basics what we discussed. Now let us move on to the applications of SLN and NLC. So the first application is oral route of administration, SLN and NLC, used for oral drug delivery. We all know that oral drug delivery is the most common and convenient route for delivery of any medicine. So here, the SLN and NLC have been used in oral delivery, mainly in the form of SLN and NLC, is to enhance the oral bioavailability by exploiting lymphatic transport. So that's what I'm going to show in animation in the next slide. So this is a kind of different mechanism, usually takes place for lipid-based, even for oil, what we are consuming, that will be not going to the liver or something. It may sometimes directly absorb through this lymphatic transport. So the drug will flow in the GIT, that will be accessed by the adhesion of M cells of Peyer's patch, or otherwise called enterocytes, then passage into the mesenteric lymph nodes, then flow into the lymph vessels, and transport between the lymph and blood. So this is the peculiar mechanism for SLN and NLC to avoid the first pass metabolism in case of oral drug delivery. So here you can see the drug is flow and the GIT, it adhere into the M cells of Peyer's patch, or otherwise called enterocyte, and it enters into the lymph vessels, and then finally it will goes into the blood vessel without going to the liver through portal vein. Okay, so thereby we can enhance the bioavailability of any poorly soluble drug by this mechanism through SLN or NLC given by oral route. So just I'm going to show some of the case study which has been developed by us, and I'm not going to reveal the step-by-step procedure and all. Just I'm going to showcase the significant results what we achieved. So we developed one SLN in the year 2010, that is olanzapine loaded solid lipid nanoparticles for enhancing oral bioavailability. Olanzapine basically an antipsychotic drug, comes under the BCS class 2. And so here, the blue dots, if you see the plasma concentration time profile curve, the blue dot is the the drug suspension as it's given to the animals, which show the AUC of such a small one. When given the same drug in the form of SLN, it has almost like 5-fold increased. The AUC is increased. This is the picture showing the sum of that particular product, and the same has been first filed, and then for patent, and then it is published also. Then, so here the reason for the AUC, increased AUC of olanzapine after oral administration is almost increased to 4.33 folds than that of the normal olanzapine suspension. The possible reasons are, one is increased AUC, increased T half, the elimination half-life also decreased, and increased MRT, mean residential time. And another reason is slower release of olanzapine from the nanoparticles. Okay, so and more, the final reason is low clearance. Okay, the clearance in the GIT, because it's after reaching to the blood, the drug is released slowly, so that thereby the drug enhance. Yeah, the same reason for the enhanced bioavailability are one GIT, then are well absorbed by the intestinal membrane, then bioadhesion to the GI wall. So basically, lipid particles having some adhesiveness in nature. That is also another advantage. Then, incorporation of olanzapine into SLN reduces bacterium and enzymatic degradation during the absorption process. Then the next one is, in this particular formulation development, what we did is we have used one positive charge inducer, that is sterile amine. So that will give positive charge to our particles. The advantage of positive charged particles are they will be uptake by the intestinal lymphatics. Okay, because the intestinal mucosa is negative in nature, so our particles are in positively charged means, which will be uptake very nicely. So thereby it will avoid the first pass metabolism also. So this paper we will publish in the current nanoscience, and even the same drug I tried with NLC also, nanostructure lipid carriers, after some time, after 2015 or something, and that also worked well, and that's bioavailability also improved a lot, to improve the bioavailability. And case study 2, which elaborates the drug targeting, how we can target through nano drug delivery system. We developed the same drug, but here now, instead of using the oral route, we have developed the drug for brain targeting, using simple lipids like glyceryl monostearate and tripalmitin by solvent diffusion method, whereas the first two are prepared by microemulsion technique. So here, what we did is we have coated the nanoparticles with twin 80, that is polysorbate 80. So what happened, this because of the coated polysorbate 80, the ApoE or ApoA lipoproteins, which are adsorbed to the P80 coating, then this nanoparticles will bind to the LDL receptor, low density lipid receptors in the triple B, and thereby it cheats the triple B and enter into the triple B and release the drug. Okay, so this is the mechanism called, this may be endocytosis, or sometimes we can say it's a transcytosis through triple B endothelial cells. So you can see here, yeah. So our drug is coated with polysorbate 80. So because of that polysorbate 80 coated nanoparticles, the ApoE lipoprotein, okay, that will be adsorbed onto the surfaces of our particle. That one easily bind with the LDL receptor, and then it crosses the triple B and releases the drug. So this is another example or case study I can say for targeting to the targeting of drug to the different organs. So here we targeted to brain, since it's an antipsychotic drug. So here we can see some of the the significant results. So here you can see the AUC of our formulation. It's almost like many folds increased than that of the normal drug. But here we have given the drug in the intravenous route. So almost like 23 folds increased brain bioavailability, I can say, our brain AUC, because we have taken the brain and we have homogenized the brain, and we have analyzed the concentration of the drug in the brain. So the possible reason for increased brain AUC is one is slower release of olanzapine, and then lower clearance. Okay, then the third one is cheating of triple B through endocytosis mechanism. So this paper also, this work also published in Taylor and Francis journal, and yeah. Then the next route is injectable drug delivery. So only those two I have given with case studies. Remaining, just I'm going to give the importance of this particular route with respect to SLN and NLC. So nanoparticles in the form of SLN or NLC offer an advanced approach to the delivery of insoluble drugs and formulations for sustained release, especially in case of parenteral drug delivery. The advantages are low excipient loads, because only lipids, that is also we can do melting along with the drug. Then smaller doses in volumes, then better control of particle size and dispersion efficiency, then controlled release rates, then capability for sterile filtering. That's what I told in the very beginning. That is cold sterilization, then increased efficacy. So these are all the advantages of SLN and NLC in parenteral delivery. So here we can, see the investigated drugs via parenteral delivery in the form of SLN and NLC. So these are some of the example of drugs and respective diseases and what route it is administered is given in the particular slide. And coming to the topical delivery, so a topical route is another very important route to deliver the drug, because topical route is a very advantageous and safe route when compared to any other route. So the advantages of SLN and NLC in topical route of delivery are increasing in loading capacity, then potential for decreased skin irritation, then stabilization of sensitive actives, control release, then physical and chemical long-term stability. So these are all again example of the drugs which are all formulated as a nanoparticles, lipid-based nanoparticles for topical delivery, and with the example of drug, the respective lipids, as well as why here it's showing progress effect in topical route means this formulation could significantly increase the accumulative uptake of drugs in skin over the pure drug. Why? Because it is lipophilic in nature. Generally, lipophilic drugs are easily permeated through the skin, and moreover it is made up of lipids, so the partition coefficient is more in this particular formulation, which in turn better will be the permeability compared to the marketed gel or pure drug. So it is significant in enhanced skin targeting effect. So here I will tell some example. Usually, the normal gel or cream will not enter or will not permeated through the skin, except very few amount of drug. You might be seen the previous, So when we apply the cream, only very minimal quantity of the drug which are entered into the deeper skin. Rest of the drug and all retained on the top surface or top layer of the skin, so which will not end up with any beneficial effect. So generally what we will do in order to increase the permeation, we will use permeation enhancer, but the permeation enhancer will disrupt the lipid bilayer. It will tear the lipid bilayer. That is not good for the skin health. When the lipid bilayer is ruptured, not only the drug will enter, the big size of the drug, along with the size, some microorganism will also enter sometimes, which may produce some what is called adverse effect or unexpected effect. So what we can do with nanoparticles, especially SLN or NLC, means we can target this gap between carnocyte to carnocyte. Okay, carnocyte to hair follicle. The carnocyte to carnocyte is only 20 nanometer. Carnocyte to hair follicle is 200 nanometer. So we can develop either 20 to 200 nanometer size range of nanoparticles, and that will be incorporated in creams or gel, which will be applied on the skin. Means that will not what is called that will be permeated your skin without any rupture or something, so that the entry of microorganism also will be prevented. You can see. So most of the drugs will enter. There is no rupture in the skin layer also. Okay, so the next delivery is ophthalmic drug delivery using SLN and NC, which enhances the ocular bioavailability. Why? Because the reduction in frequency of administration. Okay, see, once daily is sufficient. No need to administer every 1 hour. The possible mechanism is, one is enhanced adhesiveness. I already told that lipid-based nanoparticles are having adhesive nature. Okay, even it will adhere into the intestinal, membrane. Similarly, it will adhere into the cornea also. So the drug will be released from the nanoparticles for prolonged time, and also we can do targeting to the interior eye, like we can make our drug to cross the tissue barriers like cornea, conjunctiva, blood aqueous barrier, and blood retinal barrier by using some surface modifications. So example, pilocarpine were found to produce enhanced aqueous ocular bioavailability in the form of SLN. And recently we published review article which gives the various nano drug delivery system used in the treatment of CNS disorders. Coming to the conclusion, it is a frontier area of future scientific and technological development. SLN and NLC are one of the promising drug delivery system which can be of potential use in controlling and targeting drug delivery. Then SLN and NLC are used for parenteral, oral, ocular, and transdermal route, as well as it may release the drug in a sustained manner. So in a nutshell, I can conclude like this: SLNs and NLCs for drug delivery and targeting will mature faster and become more useful for many lesser therapeutic drugs. So these are all some of my references. And here I would like to thank JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research, Mysuru, then principal staff members and students of JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty. Then I also extend my thanks to the management, principal and faculty members of Babatla College of Pharmacy, Andhra Pradesh, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experience with related to the topic what I delivered. And finally, I thank all the participants for your patient listening. And now you are welcome to contact me to clarify your doubts, or you want to collaborate with me in the said research area. So this is my contact ID, mail ID, and email number.